And so I think it's important that you understand the clinical trial process. I'm not saying that the pill is bad. I just want you to think about how to make health decisions for yourself. You want to be especially vigilant, especially staying on top of it. Once I got the information I needed, I started to move in that direction, how to make health decisions for yourself.
In your mind, what would you say to brothers that's not vaccinated or just people in general?
I'm glad to hear you are protected, and thanks for being so honest here on Keeping It 100, because that's what we do. Hey, welcome to Keeping It 100. I am your host, Dr. Kristin Motley, and just like every week, we are just going to keep it real today, having open, honest conversations. So if you're here, say hi in the chat. Dr. Thomas is keeping an eye on the chat to make sure that your questions, your comments, and concerns are addressed. We just going to hop right into it. I'm going to bring in my co-host, street practitioner, George Mink Jr.
Hey, what's going on, Doc? Good afternoon.
Hey, Georgie. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm in good spirits today. Yeah.
That's well. Listen, we're back inside. We had a good time at Chest Pen last week. So shout out to Chest Pen and all the staff there. We really had a good time learning about their services. We learned a lot.
Yeah, we did. And actually, Doc, I'm glad you mentioned it because I still have to make my appointment. So
listen, at least you know where you can go.
Right.
So I'll be staying on you, but it's good to know that you can make an appointment somewhere, because some people just didn't know that was a place who could see them. And so now we know Chest Pen sees everyone from the young to the old. So just call and make your appointment. Now, the longer you wait, the longer you're going to have to wait, because a lot of times it's hard to get in like right away. So you may have to wait for weeks, and then you keep pushing that out the longer you wait.
Sure.
What's taking so long, by the way?
I'm kind of procrastinating. That's something I'm working on. But I'm honestly really want to make the appointment. They do have a lot of services. They even have dental.
Yeah.
So I want to be a man of my word, and I'm definitely going to lead by example. And I will be making my appointment probably today.
But I'm just wondering, why haven't you made it? Tell me why. Because you just had
I just used the procrastination word. I'm not sure what you want me to say. But no, I'm serious.
I don't know why.
I don't know. I did attempt to go, to call, but it was like the line would have me on hold for so long. A lot of people do use the services, and that's kind of comes with the territory, that it is free healthcare.
Yeah.
So it will come with some type of line or, as far as waiting period. So I just have to be patient and do the right thing.
All right. I hear you. And speaking of being a man of your word, I took the kids to the dentist yesterday, and I got the fluoride treatment. For the kids. I know they're going to send me a bill for it. I'm going to just pay the bill. But goodness gracious.
Right. Okay, Doc. Because you tough too. You tough. We both tough. We tough in other categories, but we tough.
Listen, this is hard to get through to us sometimes. But I'm glad she did say it was important. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk that up and just pay out of pocket for it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to give a quick update on some things that's going on in terms of health and things that we need to be keeping our eye on. I saw last week that New York, their governor declared a state of emergency for polio. Now, polio was another infectious disease that has a vaccine. But what happened was somebody from a different country came over here, was exposed to someone that didn't get the vaccine. Now that person has polio, and they're seeing the cases rise. It's a big deal. A lot of kids here who were born in the U.S., they have it because it's just a part of the vaccines that they get. But I would just encourage people, check your records, check your kids' records, and make sure they have all their childhood vaccines are up to date. A lot of people got behind when the pandemic started. I know that Noah got behind because I canceled every appointment. I wasn't going out of my house. I wasn't going nowhere. But I got him caught up. So make sure you get your kids caught up on their vaccine series because we don't need to see any new surge in things that have been under control for so long. Now, I did attend a meeting last week where the medical director for Delaware County gave us a monkeypox update. So she said, as of last week, this was September 15th, there was 24 cases of monkeypox in Delaware County, which is pretty low. I think it's pretty low when you look at all the people that live in Delaware County, and that people that they are administering the vaccine at the Keystone Wellness Center in Chester on 9th Street, but it's only once a week. So people that are high risk are encouraged to get the vaccine, and primarily this is men who have sex with men. And you want to get the vaccine if you think you were exposed, because if you get it quickly enough, it'll prevent you from having monkeypox. So if you think you're exposed, call the health department right away and find out if you still meet the time frame to get the vaccine so that you won't, have a full case of monkeypox. So that's really important. Do you have any questions about that, George?
No, I mean, we just gotta get the information out there. I mean, that's important to know, and be updated. Monkeypox just hit us a month or two ago, like basically out of nowhere, and it's still active. So, just practice safe health. If you have any issues or whatever, or you think you have a possibility of having it, go get it checked out because there is a vaccine. And just stay on top of everything that you can.
Yep, absolutely. And I want to clarify, so anybody can get monkeypox. It's not something that just happens in men who have sex with men. Anybody can get it, but when we look at the number of cases have predominantly like 98% or more have been in men who have sex with men. So it is a thing that happens when you touch the skin, like you're rubbing the skin, and you're exposed to the bumps. That's how it's transmitted primarily. Anybody can get it. It's just a touch thing or an exposure thing, but men who have sex with men have been diagnosed more than any other group of people. So just wanted to clarify that. I saw on 60 Minutes that Biden said that the pandemic is over. Ooh, child. He didn't declare the pandemic over. And listen, the way that I interpreted that is that Biden is a politician, and politicians say what they think people need to hear so that they can get people on their side, the votes that they need to win or that their party needs to win. And so I understand why he would say something like that. But I want to remind y'all that over 400 people are still dying a day of COVID. So when you look at the numbers, yes, we're not masking. Yeah, we're not social distancing. Yeah, like all the regulations have relaxed. And a lot of that has been political as well. But there's still people dying of COVID. Not as many as before. Thank God the vaccines have helped with that. There is nothing that has helped with that except for the vaccines. The vaccine has helped with that. I mean, the precautions that we took were additive, but it's the vaccines that really brought those numbers down from thousands of people dying a day. So just want to remind y'all that the vaccines are working. There's a new booster. George, you got your new booster. How you feeling?
Yeah. I'm great. I mean, my ear just started hanging over a little bit. This was like nah. I'm good. Actually, I feel good that I got it. I feel like I got some defensive against, anything that's coming my way or unexpected.
You ready?
I'm ready. I'm suited and booted. So
suited and booted.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm waiting on you though, Doc. I mean, you
I'm gonna get it.
You're around the facility. You drive around the facility in circles. So
I'm looking at the window.
Over. Yeah, you doing all that talking and you still not boosted. But we're gonna talk about that after the show. Okay.
I'm gonna get it. I'm just not 100% there yet. I feel like I got the vaccine and I got the first booster. So I got 3 shots so far. I feel like that still provides. I mean, it's not even about how I feel. The research, the studies show that still provide good protection. It does. Plus, I had COVID in July. So I still got that post-COVID super antibody thing going on for at least another month or so. So like I'm feeling good. So I'm going to start thinking about the booster probably in about a month. But I am going to get it. I'm just, I'm just a mess.
I know.
But I'm just trying to get people to get
the No, I said the only thing I was going to encourage is that even though Biden did say that means we're leaning more towards paying for everything. COVID.
It's coming.
I mean, that's the only scary part for people that's waiting or being hesitant. As of right now, all those things are free. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
It is definitely coming. Hey Kenny, I see you out there. It's free now, and actually I saw an article that said that Moderna they had put in a prediction, or that they may be charging about $100 for that vaccine. And
Wow.
so that's a big deal, because they're looking at the sales. If they sold 100 doses, if they sold the vaccine for $100 to half of the population, what does that look like in terms of them for a company?
Right.
So the government is not picking up this bill forever. Right now, I think the government pays about $15 per dose. But when this goes public, to the commercial insurance, to your
Mm,
employer insurance, this is not going to be $15.
right.
It's going to be a lot more. And so take advantage of it now. I just want people to just get your first and second doses and get a booster. Get your first and second
Mm,
doses and then get a booster. And let's just see what happens over time. You don't have to get 4 or 5, 6 vaccines in a year right now. Hopefully we don't move that way. But right now, just get your first and second dose and then get a booster when it's time. And then we'll go from there.
right.
Because you don't have to pay for it right now. And a lot of states and a lot of places, a lot of children are still not vaccinated. The vaccine rates in children are really, really, really low. So we know that the vaccines work. We know that they work well in children, that they're safe in children. I still haven't gotten Noah vaccinated, but I'm gonna get him vaccinated. So we're gonna get my booster and him vaccinated on the same day.
Praying for Noah, because that's my guy.
We're gonna do
Mom
that
is
on
a
the
mess.
same. I just feel like we just had COVID, so I just want to take advantage of these super antibodies, then have the vaccine to come in to kind of give us a boost, as opposed to just, I don't know. I'm
It's
a
a,
mess.
it's all right, Doc. You know what you're doing, but just let's get Noah on that list, okay?
Yes, yes, yes. But yeah, so just want to just encourage you all to get your first and second doses, and then get a booster when it's time, because COVID it's still out here.
Yeah,
And we know that it works because we only had, 400 funerals, have to be planned for each day is a lot. It's a whole lot.
right.
So we're in a better place, but we're not there yet. So now I want to bring in our special guest,
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan McMillan. He is a licensed marriage and family teletherapist. He has a private practice in Pennsylvania. He's a national speaker for Fortune 500 businesses and conferences, and he focuses on emotional intelligence, stress management, and inclusion. Hey, Ryan.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Glad to have you. We are just going to have a stress management for Black men talk today. So this is kind of coming off of a previous show. We had the CEO of CMPradio.net on. He had experienced a stroke earlier this summer, and he talked about his experience. And a lot of what he talked about was stress and the role that played on him having a stroke. And so that gave us the idea that let's talk about stress in Black men. So that's why we wanted to invite you on the show. So thanks so much for being here.
No
So you
problem.
are a therapist. That's the word. Hashtag therapist. Georgie, how you feel about going to therapy?
I mean, it was a time, of course, that, we definitely didn't accept it as an option, especially coming from how we grew up. We came up with tough grandmoms and tough households, and we was highly spiritual, and we really didn't believe in any other thing that didn't work other than prayer. So, prayer is definitely a remedy, but as far as therapy, I would incorporate it in my lifestyle now. It helps you balance, and it just gives you another resource and, option to basically go against your obstacles and whatever you're facing. So I totally approve of it. You got my stamp.
That's
seeing a brother over there, we just like to relate to our folks. So
yeah, exactly.
I totally agree to it and accept it, and I'm excited about this show. So yeah,
that's good. I feel like Black men have come a long way in terms of like therapy, because just like you said, it was taboo, especially in the Black community in general for so long. It was just something that we just didn't do. And so we have definitely come a long way. I feel like people need two things they need in life. They need to have a spiritual relationship, some kind of, say, faith to hold on to, and they need a therapist. Like, everybody needs those two things because life is so hard. Life is so hard. And so I have a therapist. I've had one for many years, maybe about 10 years now, like almost 10 years now. And it's just been like incredible. It's been incredible. And so stress is a big part of everyone's life. Black men deal with particularly different specific types of challenges. But before we dig into that, I wanted to ask Ryan, I know there are two types of stress. There's good stress and there's bad stress. Can you talk about the differences a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So good stress in general just speaks to things that might add to you. And so when you think about like getting married, that's a good stress. When you think about like a promotion on the job, it's like all these things that might motivate you, could enhance you in some way, or something that to some extent you're looking forward to. That would be a good stress. Graduating from college, that could be like a good stress. And I mean, typically when we talk about good stress, bad stress, that's what we're referring to. And bad stress is more so like an ailment, an illness, like something that's draining you, and things of that nature. And so the way I generally talk about good stress and bad stress, though, is it pertains to our script. And so it doesn't matter what you're going through. If you had a narrative and the way you talk about it is a certain way where it's all negative. I don't know if you ever experienced it where it's like, here we go again, right? I'm in traffic. Where's this? Where's that? Whatever it might be. If you had that script, once that tape starts playing, it plays that tape that lets you know that like your body posture, everything is kind of going in that direction where you feel stressed out. And sometimes like you'll be talking to somebody like, oh, I'm all stressed out. It's like, what happened? And then they tell you, and it's like, well, that don't seem too bad from one person's perspective.
Yeah.
It's that script that they have. And so I would suggest that bad stress is the kind of stress where you play that negative tape. And good stress is the kind of stress where you're able to stop that tape, and like the way we explain things matters is what I'm getting at. And so to me, it's not the thing that happens. It's how you talk about the thing that happens that matters.
That's really deep because the brain is so powerful.
Right.
And what you say and what you put out is what happens. And so that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Wow. Whew. Okay.
That was good. Like I'm
saying,
good. That's so
okay.
true.
Sign me up.
Because like just a quick example, like last night, Bria, that's my daughter, she's 11. She would not go to sleep. I was asleep. So this morning, Bilal was like, I just had to tell her, you are sleepy. Like, say, Bria. So he had her say this, I am sleepy. I am tired. It was like he had her like keep repeating that until she fell asleep. So it was because she kept saying, I'm not tired. I can't sleep. So he had her like reverse it. So it's the same kind of thing. Like you tell your brain how to feel and how you feel and what you're going to do, and you make it happen. So that was good, Ryan. That was good.
Yeah, I like that.
So I know we've been, trying to query men and just to try to find out what are the things, especially for Black men, that contribute to their stress. And we have a video that we could play to just talk about one person's experience. Video. We have a video we'd like to play.
Right.
I see that Kenny said he has a therapist. Listen, we definitely all need one. So in the video, George was hitting the streets and he ran into Josh from What Would Josh Do on cmpradio.net. And Josh has shared what is a source of stress for him. George, what did he say?
Just wanted to know, like, what's some of the stress that come with being a Black man?
First thing that comes to mind would be being able to stress as a black man, being able to openly say that I'm having a bad day, I'm having a hard day, I'm having a rough day. A lot of times they see us as Superman. But I want the black men out there to know that it's okay not to have a good day. It's okay to stress. It's okay to have people that you can talk to. George is one of the people that I could call and I could talk to, amongst other brothers that I have in my life. And I'm grateful today that as the man I am, that I know that there's good men out there that other men can call on and talk about the stresses of their day. So that's one of the stresses of black men, is being able to stress.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you, good brother. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, that was good. So Ryan, what do you know, what's your take on that, or what can you say to that? You know, like we have a man who says, it's okay to stress, but a stress was the fact that we couldn't talk about it. And there's still some people that feel like I just can't talk about this weakness. How do you respond to something like that?
Yeah, I think he makes a really good point. I think a lot of us feel like we're on an island and we just have to figure out things by ourselves. And while we could be in specific spaces where people are saying they want us to open up, it doesn't really feel like they do, you know, and so it doesn't feel like it's room for those emotions and feelings that we might have. Let alone, I don't know if many of us have like the language for it, even if we could talk about it sometimes, you know. So it's kind of hard to articulate those feelings because we haven't been in a ton of spaces where that happens. And so I think he's right that, you know, just being able to talk about stress is a bit of relief, because when you think about it, when you don't talk about it, you have that pile, right? And it just kind of accumulates. You have all the things that you haven't addressed. I mean, when I talk to my clients, we kind of talk about it from that perspective of, here's the pile of all the things that you haven't addressed. And we just go one-on-one, kind of unpacking that pile of things that they just don't have the space. You know, they have to be on all the time and present a certain way. Not so much a front, but sometimes it can be a bit of a mask. Like you have to mask what you're going through, because we see that like vulnerability is a weakness. But I suggest that it's a strength, because if it was, you know, I think everybody would be able to do it, and everybody can't. You know, it takes a lot of courage to get to that place of expressing vulnerability. And so I think he's right about that. You know, just being able to express that, like, I'm stressed out, does wonders for us in terms of relieving the stress.
I can imagine that. George, do you want to say something, George?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Josh, but to me, that it's easier said than done. I mean, and everybody's situation is different. So, I mean, just being a black man, watching my dad and certain people, they always took on the role of fixing it. So we were like, we're professional fixers or professional make sure, you know, that it gets done type of guys. So, I mean, just you already accept it as it's just going to be a part of your life. So it's just like, okay, you got to make sure the bills is paid. You got to make sure that you got to make sure if something went wrong, you got to fix it. You got to make sure you're with the right partner, like as far as women, you know, or whatever your home situation is, because that's a big part of like your everyday lifestyle. So what I'm learning is that certain pieces have to be in place in order for your stress to be at a low rate. So, and I just think we take on things like in a high tolerance and just accept it as, okay, it's just part of being a man, you know, and your woman might even put that pressure on you. Like it's a man's thing to do, whatever the case may be. I mean, I know back in the day, it was just like, it was the man's job to go out and do everything, you know, so he had to take on a whole household. He had to be the provider. He had to this. And that was instilled in our women a long time ago, that the man is the provider and he has to do this and he has to do that. And it's like we just took on that role and we kind of pass it on to generations. So it's like now we're in the age of expressing ourselves, getting this stuff out your chest, getting this stuff out your system. So it's like kind of like a woosah moment to know that you can be vulnerable. You can make a mistake. You don't have to have a perfect game every day. So,
Yeah. I think you said a whole lot, and I want us to unpack some of that a little bit. And I see that Kenny is in agreement too, where he, his stressors could be job or unhealthy relationships. We're going to talk about that as well. And then he's also saying not being able to express yourself. And so I want to talk about that a little bit because I know how much of a relief it is when you can express yourself. And so Ryan, Kenny also mentioned, if you have a lack of support, then like how are you who are you supposed to tell and how are you supposed to get it out? And just like you said, if you don't have the language, you can't articulate it. So what is the next step for a man that is feeling the weight on his shoulders and don't know the first step to processing that or helping to process through that?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is, I failed to mention that when we do express ourselves, sometimes it comes out as anger. And so you might see a lot of anger that's coming out, but it could be like mass hurt. And so that is somebody like expressing their stress, or we may not say it in the in feelings language, but we're trying to get it out sometimes. And we can feel like our language isn't always there. And so like we're getting corrected around how we say it and not about what we're saying. Right. And so I just wanted to add that piece. So that shuts it down. That shuts down that process of opening up sometimes. Throughout my life, I used to hear it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Right. And I'm like, well, if you know what I mean, like sometimes,
right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like you're talking about how my pitch or something like that, and I see somebody else just mentioned, which I think is important. Like you don't want to be that person that's the like always venting, complaining, and that like you don't want to be a burden on people. And so that could be a piece as well. But to your question, I think it's helpful to see a therapist if you're not open to seeing a therapist quite yet. If you have like the notes section on your phone, like sometimes I just use the notes section on my phone. I just write what's in my head down, and I just type it out.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
this is
journaling.
one of my thoughts. And so I just write it down. If I'm angry about something, if I'm thinking about something, I just need to, like sometimes we just need to get it out of our head. You have it just kind of in your head. That can be quite difficult. Another thing is, I think for men, we tend to ruminate a lot. And so we may not process it all the time as emotions, but we have this thought that's just stuck in our head. Like we can't get out of that ruminating place. And so sometimes we can check that thought against like the evidence, right? Where we're just looking like, am I really this thing? Like what evidence do I have to suggest that that's true about me or whatever it might be? But like, I want to go back to something that you said, your Bilal. I don't know who Bilal is to you. I'm
That's
assuming
my husband.
Yeah. And so, what Bilal said, like we can also like use affirmation. We don't talk about affirmations when it comes to men as much. And I think like we don't focus on our like confidence and building our self-esteem in the same way we might do with women. And I think it's important that we use affirmations too. And so like the certain things that we say about ourselves that can help us feel like we're worthwhile and significant can be important too, to know what we believe about us.
That is so huge. I didn't realize that men don't usually use affirmations like women do. That is crazy. I'm about to write an affirmation book for Black men.
We don't.
I'll let y'all do it. I'll let y'all do. But that's a really good point. I'm taking notes because I think we need to do something around that because that's a big deal. Because we're talking about speaking it into existence and speaking how we feel and how that can have the power to change how we really feel. And so we need to get those words and we need to have the language and help men to create the language and find the language to use to express themselves. That's big, Ryan.
Yeah, it is big. And then you said something about the voice, because I'm a person that I already speak loud and with conviction all the time. But I always hear like with my wife is like, why are you yelling? And I just like, I'm not yelling. It's just, I'm expressing myself, but it's just like, I mean, I gotta kind of start being conscious of that. And like by you even saying that, it's just like, you just can't just accept it because that's how I talk. It's like, it's a certain way that you talk and, you know, people around you know the difference. So even though I say I speak loud, it's not true if somebody else is noticing it. It's like, it's a little different louder. Like the louder has a little spin on it.
Little tang to it.
Yeah,
That's really good self-awareness.
It's a little spicy today. So so I mean, you know, that's good, you know, as well. Like to hear you say that, Ryan, like just you know, because I mean it's just a mirror thing too as well, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like a reflection thing as well for me, you know, as far as like addressing stress and combating it, you know, but it's also a mirror thing as well, I think.
Absolutely.
Right.
I also wanted to bring up another point that Kenny's made about men, you know, Black men aren't supposed to have feelings. And so I guess, Ryan, what's the message to Black men who feel like that? Like they're not supposed to hurt and they're not supposed to be overwhelmed. What's your message to them?
Yeah, so one is, you know, one thinking trap is like should statements, right? Like we might say I shouldn't do this, or I should do this and I should do that, and we can get in those like should statements internally. And a good way to combat those should statements is to it's just to change the language that we're using with ourselves and take that judgment. Whenever we say should, it's like a form of judgment. And so we also get that message from other people. And so it's not just something that's internal. It's something that we kind of hear from people, right? It's like, you know, I don't know if you ever heard somebody say you shouldn't feel this way or you should. It's too late.
Yeah.
Right. I already feel it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so if it's already there, then I think, you know, I don't think we're as prone to like really kind of get into what I would call assertive communication. Like it's either aggressive or passive. Like we might get loud or we might shut down. Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, being able to advocate for our feelings in an assertive way, just saying, you know, like it's important, like this matters to me. You know what I mean? And so I think that could be helpful for us, but I believe that they're absolutely right, is that we're made to feel weak for having feelings. We're like there's explanations that people give when we give our feelings, you know, and so it just kind of writes our feelings off. And it's hard to process feelings when you feel like they're constantly being written off, or where somebody's telling you that, as one person put it, like is BS for having that feeling in the first place.
Yeah.
Like it's just in your head. Like you just imagining things or like you're crazy for having the feeling. So I think a lot of times we can feel like it's not going to matter. I hear a lot of guys in couples therapy saying it's not going to matter anyway. So what's the point? Mm-hmm. And if they're hopeless, then they're not going to open up. And so I think the message to those men is, you know, as we learn assertive communication and stay engaged in those conversations rather than shutting down, hopefully we can get that message across to people and change that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think a part of that in terms of staying engaged in those conversations, especially when you're looking at unhealthy relationships or just in relationships in period, is that everyone involved needs to be in therapy to me together, because it's not fair for me to learn that I have, you know, that people need to accept how I feel and that I have to accept how they feel. But then my partner doesn't learn that. And so I'm just getting like hit upside the head with foolishness. And I'm like, but you're supposed to understand that it's okay for me to feel like that.
Right.
So I think that couples therapy is a real big deal. It's really important whether you're married or not. Me and Bilal have been in therapy for a number of years for a number of reasons. And we can talk about that later. But I think it's really important for like whoever is involved in your life to some extent to learn about communication, because, you know, that's the thing that can break down a lot of relationships. It's the communication piece, and everybody has to learn the same thing.
Right. And let me elaborate on that, Doc. The communication thing is like we be hearing communication is the key community, but everybody has their own type of communication. So you establish your own type of communication with the people in your circle. So take, for instance, your mate or whatever. Like, it's not just the way y'all communicate individually, it's the way you communicate together. So you have to establish a communication you know, amongst each other. Like y'all build your own communication from the ground up. So it takes a long, I mean, it's a crazy process. Therapy is a big part of it though, because therapy is the balancer. So therapy is like the ref. Like I feel like I consider therapy like being the ref in the game. Like, so, you know, the ref, you know, if it's a bad play, if it was a negative, like the ref gonna throw the flag. Like he gonna throw the flag out and call a penalty on it and call you out on whatever, you know, whatever was wrong or whatever could have been done a different type of way. So, I mean, the communication piece is big, but it's just like, I feel like we never accepted therapy. So it's so hard for us to even resort to it. Like everybody knows what comes with being a black man. We got to worry about so many things. And I'm not playing the fiddle or the violin or whatever, but it's just the truth. Like just in America, just in general, like as a father, like there's just so many things like that comes with it, no matter if you like it or not. It just comes with the color of your skin. Yeah. So we just so it's just like we backed up. It's like we in traffic in our mind the whole time. It's like it feel like being in traffic like all your life, and you're just gonna be stuck in traffic. So what would you say to somebody like me, like starting in the beginning, the therapy walk, and really want to enter it, but still has questions? I still have speculations. I still have reserved feelings because my mind was already trained to be one way. It was trained to overcome everything, to shake it off. Don't cry if you don't have to. Only at funerals. Just like it's like a stigma, and it's just like we all basically inherited that.
Yeah, I think it is a really good point, and my response to that is through a personal experiences from physical pain. I had some pain for a while, and I just looked at the pain and just said to myself, like, I can live with it. Like, I'm good. It wasn't enough. Like things had to get to an extreme point for me to do something. And then it got more and more extreme. And then when it like really, really hurt, then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the doctor. I'm gonna go and look at it. And what I generally tell people is, you know, we don't want to get to that place where, like, from a mindset, mental perspective, emotional perspective, that you're waiting until it really, really hurt to get help. Because that's usually when we like, all right, there's nothing else I can do. Usually people I see is in that position, right? They're like, look, I tried everything else, and that's why I'm coming to you. There's nothing else I can do. But at that point, it's like so much that we got to rebuild and do in terms of work that it can feel like you just at your wit's end. So I generally tell people, like, from a checkup perspective, you know, you don't have to come to me, and we see each other every week. You don't have to do it all the time. Just go for a checkup. Just go for a checkup just to sort things out. And if it's something that you feel works for you, then go with it. But you don't have to. It's not a forever decision. I'm a bridge. That's it. I'm a bridge. I'm just helping you get from one place to the next, and that's it. And so hopefully we can just change our mindsets a little bit about how we view pain, and realize that we don't have to live with that pain. Just because we can don't mean we have to.
Right.
Can I respond to something else you said, George?
Sure.
Right. So you mentioned something about communication as well, like in relationship, and in my practice working with couples, what I'm mainly looking at is patterns, which can be stressful for us men, right? Like it's or for anybody, quite frankly, but it could be stressful. And usually it's a pattern like this where one person has a need, they communicate the need, and when they do so, the other person feels like they're not good enough, like nothing they do matters or it doesn't work, you know, like I don't know if you get what I mean so far, and you kind of feel that way, you get defensive. You get defensive where you shut down, and so it's like, you know, you don't want to keep hearing all the things you don't do. And so I think usually men find themselves in that withdrawal position where we kind of withdraw, we internalize, we walk away, we shut down, we get defensive in those moments. And so for a lot of us, going back to your original question, you know, if that's something that you find is stressful and you don't feel like you can be heard elsewhere, then therapy is the place where you can eventually feel heard. And it's like, finally, somebody gets me.
Wow, that's big. I mean, that's big. And I just know that, especially at a certain point in your life, it's time to incorporate it.
Yeah.
You know, if you already didn't accomplish these things on your own, or, you know, grow into a, you know, a new foundation of your mindset, then, I mean, you know, therapy is basically like going to school. Like you're going to school and you learning certain things, and you kind of want to graduate to a certain level to be able to control these things, because like a big piece for me is just shutdown mode. Like I'm a big shutdown person. Like I automatically don't want to deal with it, or that's my way to choose to deal with it. And I feel like, especially now, you know, I'm working in the community, helping a lot of brothers and families and all that. I want to stay in a positive mindset, but that's not how the world works. I mean, it's going to be things that's negative, and I have to have ways to combat it. And I mean, I just think a lot of men would probably take advantage of the therapy, and it will help someone like myself, definitely. I mean, this is big for me. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm being real talkative, because this is where I'm at in my life. I want to be able to have a resource and another out to be able to, you know, repair some damage, collateral damage that's been going on for years, that I just already know how I am, but I feel like I have to be like this. That's our mentality. So as a man, we feel like that's how we have to be, you know. And, you know, I talk to a lot of brothers, and like, that's always part of the statement, is like, that's part of being a man, you know. Well, you're the man. That's what the man's supposed to do. It's just like, and it's like, in our reality, it's BS to me. It's like, no, man, I want to be able to get this stuff out. I want my voice heard properly. I want to be able to communicate without altercation. You know, I want to learn how to, you know, to be in the world mentally and not just physically. So I think that's the problem. Like, we all, being a black man is all physical. It's physical. Like it's like a 1, 2, 3 mental, but the physical is more important to us than the mental. But the mental is breaking us down and beating us up.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm actually getting ready to turn this into a therapy session. But no, I see something in the chat that says, how can people find a therapist if they're interested? So,
Yeah,
I'll let you go with that.
Okay, so one is you can go on a platform like psychologytoday.com. You can go to goodtherapy.com. It's a free service to Black men. It's called Black Men Heal. So if you go to Black Men Heal, you'll get 8 free sessions. And I know they generally have a waiting list, like you mentioned earlier. When something's free, they usually have like a little bit of waiting list. But you know, you put your name in the bucket, you know, and see, and they're all Black therapists through Black Men Heal, and some of which are Black men. So you could do that. There's in Pennsylvania specifically, I know okay, yeah. So one person just said they know about Black Men Heal, and it's HEAL, like healing the person. And so blackmenheal.org, I believe it is. You can check that out and get that free service. Another way to connect with Black therapists specifically is there's some Black group practices, and one of them is the Ladipo group. And so that's a Black therapy, and Colley and Associates. And so that's another group practice. And so there's some group practices out there too, all of which you can find on Psychology Today. And you'll see, once you put in your zip code, look for the people that look like you, because that's a big thing when it comes to therapy is, you know, we don't want to like code switch in therapy, right? You know what I mean? And so you don't want to have to change up the way you talk, because this person may not relate to your experience or get what it's like, you know, to be in and have the Black experience, you know. And so look for somebody that look like you, because that's one of the main barriers for Black men.
Right.
It's not finding somebody that look like us when we're looking for treatment.
Wow. I mean, it's a big one. I mean, this is like a big topic. We definitely gonna have to continue the conversation next week. I'm getting hit with a lot of questions. Like a lot of brothers are interested, and we got a lot of viewers that want to, you know, like participate. And what we're probably going to do is we're going to continue this show next week, God willing, and if you have the availability. And I'm going to have questions from our viewers, more in-depth questions. And we're going to basically talk about coping skills next time, as far as coping, how to deal with stress. I mean, we pretty much identified the problems today. We pretty much identified what comes with our territory. But next week, what I want to discuss is how do we combat? Like, how do we defend? I mean, we spoke of something of the nature of an affirmation, but I want to get into the details of situations and coping. And we'll definitely have all the information that you spoke of today. We'll be able to pull it up for our viewers, so they'll be able to have the direct line or the direct information or websites as well. And I just want to thank you. Thank you, Ryan. This is big for me. I'm gonna probably watch the show 100 times, but until next week. But anything you want to say before we leave? You want to leave something with our viewers?
Yeah, I just appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the engagement, and for a lot of times when being a person of faith and being in different spaces, when we get messages to Black men, it's always like, you need to do this, you need to step up, you need to do that, it's always coming from like a little bit of a negative place, talking about what we aren't doing. And so it's good to be in a space where, we're looking at how we can actually help and not so much talk about what we're not doing, but what we need.
Wow. I just want to thank you again. That's big. I'm going to use that as well. I mean, again, like I said, we can have you on next week. That'll be a blessing.
Yep, I'll be here.
Okay, so we're going to work isms and how to control it. And on that note, thank you for coming, Brother Ryan. And we out. Thanks for keeping it 100. All right, P. All right, P. We're going. All right. All right, we good, P? All right, thank you everyone for being with us today. And we're closing out. Thanks for keeping it 100.